I thought I was just venting to my sister, but when my husband overheard me say I'd never choose him again, he walked out, and this time, he might be gone for good. I remember the moment like it just happened, burned into my memory like a scar I can't cover up. My name's Lindsay. I'm 32 years old, and I can honestly say I ruined the best thing in my life with one careless sentence. It was just a regular evening, nothing special. My sister, Danny, had come over to sit with me in the kitchen while I chopped vegetables for dinner. We were talking about everything and nothing, work stress, family gossip, the usual back and forth sisters have. I don't know what switch flipped in me that night, but I opened my mouth and said something I didn't mean. Or maybe, if I'm brutally honest, something I meant but never should have said aloud. I wouldn't date Derek if I had to do it all over again. The words slipped out so casually, like I was talking about a haircut I regretted or a pair of jeans that didn't fit anymore. Flippant. Dismissive. Cruel. I didn't think much of it in that moment. Danny just raised her eyebrows, used to my little dramatic outbursts. She didn't even react strongly. But what I didn't realize, what I couldn't have known, was that Derek wasn't as far away as I thought. I felt the silence before I saw him. The kind of silence that shifts the air, heavy and cold. Slowly, I turned my head, and there he was. Derek. Standing in the doorway. He didn't yell. He didn't argue. He didn't even ask me to explain. He just looked at me blank, unreadable, and then turned around, walked to the front door, and left. The slam of that door echoed through the house and through my chest. I stood there, stunned, my knife still in my hand, the half-chopped onion on the cutting board suddenly blurry in front of me. My stomach twisted. Danny's wide-eyed stare cut into me. "Linz, what did you just do?" But instead of admitting I'd messed up, instead of running after him, I doubled down. He's just being dramatic. He'll be fine. He always is. Even as the words left my mouth, they rang hollow. Hours went by. No Derek. I called once, straight to voicemail. I texted, "You okay?" No reply. Fine, I thought. Let him pout. He always came back eventually. He always forgave me. That was the rhythm of our marriage, wasn't it? I'd say too much, push too far, and he'd retreat quietly until he cooled off. Then he'd come back, patient as ever, ready to smooth it over. But that night, he didn't. I stayed up scrolling on my phone, pretending I wasn't waiting to hear his key in the door. Midnight passed. Then one, then two. The house stayed silent. By the time I finally crawled into bed, his side was still empty. And for the first time in our marriage, I felt a seed of unease take root. Because Derek wasn't the type to storm off. He wasn't the type to leave. But he had. And I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe this time, he wasn't coming back. The next morning, I woke up groggy, my mouth dry, my heart pounding the second I realized Derek's side of the bed was still cold and untouched. His pillow was where I'd left it the night before, the sheets smoothed flat. It was like he'd evaporated. At first, I tried to laugh it off. He's just being dramatic, I muttered to myself as I poured coffee into my favorite chipped mug. He'll be home by noon. But noon came and went. No Derek. No text. Nothing. The silence in the house was unbearable. Every creak made me whip my head toward the door. Every buzz of my phone made my pulse spike. But each time, it was only junk mail or a notification from some app one didn't care about. By late afternoon, I caved and texted him again. "Where are you? Can we talk?" "Read." No reply. My stomach twisted into knots. I hated being ignored. I wasn't built for it. I was the kind of person who needed to hash things out, fight, yell, cry, whatever it took to move on. But Derek was always the opposite. He'd let things simmer in silence until I thought I would lose my mind. And I had learned how to use that patience of his like a weapon against him. Except now, it wasn't working. That night, I called his mom. She hadn't heard from him. I called one of his friends, Mark, just to test the waters, but he sounded genuinely confused when I asked if Derek was with him. "Everything okay with you too?" Mark asked. I forced a laugh. "Yeah, just checking." But my hands were shaking when I hung up. By the second night, my irritation started boiling over into panic. Who does this? Who just leaves their wife without saying where they're going? It wasn't like him. Derek wasn't reckless. He wasn't cruel. He wasn't unpredictable. He was steady, predictable to a fault. So where the hell was he? By the third morning, I cracked. I pulled up our joint bank account, scrolling through charges like some desperate detective. Gas stations. Groceries. Then my heart stopped cold. A hotel. The charge was from earlier that morning. I sat there staring at the screen, my coffee growing cold, my hands trembling. So he wasn't at his mom's. He wasn't with friends. He wasn't hurt or lying in a ditch somewhere. He was in a hotel. Alone. Or not alone? My mind raced in ugly circles. I grabbed my phone and called the hotel immediately, rattling off Derek's name, my voice rising with each word. "He's my husband," I snapped at the clerk. "Put me through to his room." But the woman on the other end only repeated the same infuriating line. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but we can't disclose information about our guests." I wanted to scream. Instead, I hung up and sat there, shaking, staring at my phone screen. I typed out a text, "I know where you are. Stop being childish and come home." I hovered over the send button, my thumb trembling. Then I deleted it. I couldn't let him see how desperate I was. But the truth was, I was desperate. Every creak of the house sounded louder now. Every shadow seemed darker. I hated the emptiness. Derek had always been the anchor of this house, the quiet presence that made the silence feel safe. Without him, the silence was suffocating. I told myself he'd be back, that this was temporary, that once he cooled down, he'd walk back through that door with his calm, steady voice and his infuriating patience. But deep down, in the pit of my stomach, I knew this was different. This wasn't Derek cooling off. This was Derek deciding if he wanted me at all. And for the first time, I was terrified of the answer. That night, as I lay in bed staring at the empty space beside me, I realized something that made my chest tighten. Maybe he wasn't trying to teach me a lesson. Maybe he was teaching himself one. And maybe he was already done. 2 days turned into 3. 3 into 4. By then, I had stopped pretending I wasn't spiraling. I called him every morning. No answer. I texted him every night. "Please, just come home." Still nothing. On the 5th day, I nearly lost it. I drove to the hotel, heart hammering so hard I thought it might bruise my ribs. I marched up to the front desk, my voice sharp, my eyes burning. "He's my husband," I snapped at the clerk. "You have to tell me if he's here." She gave me the same rehearsed line. "I'm sorry, ma'am. I can't disclose any information about our guests." I wanted to scream, to throw something, to break through the doorways and search every room until I found him. But instead, I walked out empty-handed, defeated, the cold air hitting me like a slap. I sat in my car for nearly an hour, staring at the steering wheel, trying to swallow the panic rising in my throat. What if this wasn't about cooling off? What if this was the end? That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in the dark house, staring at the ceiling, flinching at every sound outside. And then, just as dawn broke, I heard it. The front door. The soft click of it opening. I bolted upright in bed, heart racing. Footsteps. Slow. Steady. And then there he was, Derek, standing in the doorway of our bedroom, his face unreadable, his bag slung over his shoulder. For a moment, I almost cried from relief. He was back. He was safe. But the look on his face, it wasn't the look of a man who had come home. It was the look of a man who had come to finish something. He set his bag down by the couch and stood there, arms crossed loosely, eyes locked on mine. His calmness unnerved me more than if he'd come storming in, yelling. Finally, he spoke. His voice was steady, almost cold. "We need to talk." I tried to sound casual, even though my throat was tight. "Yeah, no kidding. You've been ghosting me for nearly a week." He didn't rise to my tone. He just sat down on the couch and gestured for me to sit too. I stayed standing, leaning against the counter like I didn't care. "So, you gonna explain why you thought disappearing was better than acting like an adult?" He sighed, rubbing his hands together slowly, like he was trying to keep them warm. "I needed space. Time to think. To figure out how I could even look at you after what I heard." I rolled my eyes. "Oh, come on, Derek. Are we really doing this?" You overheard one private thing I said to my sister, and you act like it's the end of the world." His eyes narrowed. His voice sharpened just slightly. "It wasn't just one thing, Lindsay. You said you'd never date me. That if you could go back, you wouldn't choose me." The room went still. And before I could stop myself, the words flew out of my mouth, sharp and reckless. "Well, maybe I wouldn't." The second they left my lips, regret burned in my chest. But pride pushed me to double down. "You've changed, Derek. You're not the same guy I married. You've gotten lazy. You've let yourself go. You don't even try anymore. Can you really blame me for feeling like this?" He didn't explode. He didn't shout. He just sat there, blinking slowly, his face pale. And then, in a voice barely above a whisper, he asked, "So that's it? You think I'm fat and ugly, and that's why you regret me?" Something inside me twisted, but instead of admitting I was wrong, I scoffed. "Don't twist my words. I didn't say I didn't want to be with you. I said maybe, if I could go back, I'd have chosen differently. That's not the same thing." He leaned back, his expression unreadable. "Sure sounds like it to me." For the first time, there was no softness in his voice. No patience. No gentle buffer. Just cold reality. "And you know what?" he continued. "Maybe you're right. I have changed. I've gotten older. I've gained weight. I've gotten comfortable. But that's marriage, Lindsay. You build a life together. You other change together. That's what I thought we were doing." His words hit me like a punch to the chest, but I couldn't let him see it. My pride flared, ugly and defensive. "Don't make this about me," I snapped. "You think I don't notice how distant you've been? How you barely even talk to me unless it's about bills or groceries? You're not exactly giving me much to be excited about either." He shook his head slowly, his eyes narrowing. "So now it's my fault you disrespected me? My fault you told your sister you wish you'd never chosen me?" The heat in my cheeks burned, but I spat back anyway. "If you put in more effort, if you actually tried, worked out, acted like the man I married, I wouldn't feel like this." That was when it happened. For the first time in years, Derek stood up. Tall, straight, solid. He looked me dead in the eye, and his voice was steady, quiet, terrifying in its calm. "You know what, Lindsay? This says more about you than it does about me." My stomach dropped. "What's that supposed to mean?" His answer came sharp and clear. "It means you don't see what you have. You've got someone who stood by you through every impulsive decision, every reckless moment, every mess you made. Someone who never judged you. And instead of appreciating it, you tear me down. You've changed, Lindsay. And not in a way that makes this marriage worth saving." My throat went dry. My chest squeezed. I wanted to scream at him, to throw the words back, but I couldn't. His calmness crushed me more than his anger ever could. And then he did it. He picked up his bag, slung it over his shoulder, and said, "If you can't see my worth anymore, maybe I shouldn't be here." And with that, he walked to the door. Not storming. Not yelling. Just leaving. Again. And this time, something in his voice told me he might not come back. The sound of the door shutting behind him was like a gunshot in the quiet house. I stood there, frozen, staring at the space where he had just been. My arms were still crossed from our fight, but suddenly they felt heavy, useless, like dead weight hanging from my shoulders. This wasn't supposed to happen. Derek was supposed to forgive me. That's how it had always gone. I'd pushed too far, he'd retreat for a while, but he always came back. Always. But this time, there had been something in his eyes I had never seen before. Finality. The next day, I waited for him to return. He didn't. The day after that, I sent him a long message, paragraph after paragraph, explaining myself, begging him to come back so we could talk, promising I'd try harder. I watched the little read receipt pop up. But he didn't reply. That silence broke something inside me. The house felt unbearable. Every room was a reminder of him, the dent in the couch cushion where he always sat, the coffee mug he always used, the sneakers by the door he hadn't taken with him. Ghosts of him everywhere, but not him. By the end of the week, I was unraveling. I tried calling his mom again. She hadn't heard from him, but her voice was clipped, cautious, like she knew more than she was letting on. His friends either didn't know or were covering for him. Either way, I was shut out. That weekend, he came by. It was Saturday morning, and I was curled up on the couch in sweats, staring blankly at the TV without even realizing what was playing. The sound of a key turning in the front door made me jump. My heart leapt. Finally, he was home. I sat up, ready to greet him with an apology, with anything that might soften his stance. But when Derek walked in, it wasn't the man I remembered. He looked different. His shoulders were squared. His beard was trimmed. His clothes weren't the rumpled, casual ones he usually wore. He looked put together, sharp. He even smelled different, fresh cologne clinging to him, subtle but undeniable. It hit me like a punch. While I had been unraveling, he had been rebuilding. "Hey," I said awkwardly, my voice small. "Hey," he replied flatly, without a smile. He didn't ask how I was, didn't comment on the house, didn't even glance around. He just walked straight into the bedroom and started pulling out boxes. Panic clawed at my chest. "What are you doing?" "Packing," he said simply. I stumbled to my feet, rushing after him. "Packing? Derek, wait, we need to talk." He kept folding his shirts with deliberate care, laying them neatly in the box. He didn't even look at me when he said, "About what?" "You already made it clear how you feel." "That's not fair," I protested, moving closer. "I didn't mean it like that. I was upset, I wasn't thinking." He finally looked up then, and the emptiness in his eyes made my stomach drop. "No, Lindsay. You were thinking. You just didn't think I'd hear it." The lump in my throat grew until I could barely swallow. "I didn't mean to hurt you." "But you did," he said firmly. He set down the shirt in his hands and looked at me, really looked at me, like he was peeling back every layer I'd been hiding behind. "And it's not just about that one comment. It's about everything. The way you talk to me. The way you treat me. It's like I'm never good enough." I shook my head quickly, desperate. "That's not true. I was wrong, okay? I know I was. But we can fix this. We've been through worse." He let out a bitter laugh, one I barely recognized. "Have we? Because I don't think we've ever been through this, Lindsay. I don't think I've ever felt this disrespected, this unwanted. And the worst part? I stayed. I kept trying, even when you made it clear you didn't appreciate me. That's on me. I let it get this far." His words landed like blows, one after another. And for once, I had no defense. "So what then?" I whispered, my voice trembling. "That's it? You're just giving up?" He shook his head, his face calm but resolute. "I'm not giving up. I'm choosing myself. For once. I'm done trying to prove my worth to someone who refuses to see it." My chest caved in. "I can change. I'll do better. I'll be better." He sighed, setting down the box he was holding. "Lindsay, I hope you do. But not for me. For yourself. Because I can't be the one who waits around while you figure it out. I've already spent years trying to make you happy, and all I've gotten is criticism and resentment. I deserve better." Tears stung my eyes, blurring his face. "I don't want to lose you," I choked out. His expression softened for a moment, just barely, but then he shook his head. "You already did." He picked up the box, walked past me, and carried it out the front door. I wanted to run after him, to beg, to throw myself at his feet. But something inside me froze. Because I knew it was useless. He was gone. The days that followed blurred together. I went to work, pretended to function, went out with friends who tried to distract me. But every time I came home, the silence swallowed me whole. At first, I told myself he'd come around. That he just needed time. That eventually, he'd miss me enough to forgive me. But then came the moment that shattered even that illusion. It was a month later, at a little coffee shop downtown. I had ducked in on my lunch break, desperate for caffeine and maybe a little distraction. And there he was. Derek. Sitting at a corner table. With a woman. She wasn't glamorous. She wasn't the kind of woman you'd see in magazines. But she had this effortless beauty about her, natural, calm, easy. She was smiling at him, laughing at something he said, and the sight of it made my stomach twist. Because Derek was laughing too. Not the forced, polite chuckle he gave me when I pushed too hard. Not the weary sigh laugh he used to give when I said something sharp. No, this was real. Full. Warm. The kind of laugh I hadn't heard from him in years. I froze in the doorway, my heart pounding, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped my coffee. For a moment, I thought about walking over, reminding him that I was still his wife. But when his eyes lifted and landed on me, something in me broke. Because he didn't look angry. He didn't look guilty. He didn't even look sad. He just gave me a small nod. A simple acknowledgement. And then he turned back to her. As if I was already a memory. I walked out of that coffee shop with tears burning my eyes, my chest tight with the weight of it all. This was my fault. I had taken him for granted. I had chipped away at him with little comments, little cuts, until there was nothing left to hold on to. And when he finally left, he didn't do it with rage. He did it with calm, steady resolve. Because he had found his worth. And I had lost him. For the first time in my life, I felt truly, utterly alone. And I realized too late that it wasn't Derek who had failed me. It was me.